L'kuta Sichas Chelek Yud, Chaye Sara Aleph. This is a classic Rashi Sikha, with a couple of questions on Rashi, and with one answer, all of the questions will be answered. And then there even is a beautiful hira, a beautiful lesson at the end. Aleph. Ala posuk v'yitin li es Me'arat Hamachpela goimar, b'kesef mala yitnena li. So, Sara Imenu passed away, and Avraham wants to acquire a place where he could bury Sara Imenu, and ultimately a place that would become a burial place for the Avos and the Imohis. So he goes to the Bnei Ches, and he asks them for the Me'arat Hamachpela. So they say to him, the pasuk says, "Nesiya lekimata b'secheinu b'mivcha kvareinu kveres b'secha ish mimenu es kivre leyichla mimcha mekver b'secha." Take whatever you want. No one's going to hold back. No one's going to stop you from using their property to bury Sara Imenu. Avraham answers, the piguli be'Ephraim ben Soichar v'yitin li es Me'arat Hamachpela asher loya shebektzei sadeo. Talk to Ephraim ben Soichar, and he should give me the Me'arat Hamachpela be'kesef mala yitnena li. He should give it to me bekesef malay. Kesef malay. What does it mean bekesef malay? Kesef malay literally means with full money. So what does that mean? So Rashi says bekesef malay ashalim kol shavya. I'll pay the full value. I will pay the full value of the Me'arat Hamachpela. And Rashi continues v'chein David amar la Ravna bekesef malay. And also David HaMelech, when he wanted to buy the garden, the silo that ultimately would become the place where the Beis HaMikdash was built, he tells Aravna he wants to pay kesef malay. So just like over there it says bekesef malay, and it means kol shaveh, kol shavya, so too over here bekesef malay. V'tzarech lavin, so we have to understand as follows. Aleph, ma madgish Rashi bepirush bekesef malay kol shavya, the lecheira rizeh muvana yapashut bekesef. What is Rashi trying to tell us? What is Rashi emphasizing that bekesef malay means the value of the field? Seemingly, that's what it means bekesef malay. What else could it mean? Base mahi haraya mi kesef malay shebe David HaMelech me'acher she'oisa aloshen mamish anemar bekesef shelafaneinu. Usually, if you're going to bring a proof, you're going to bring a proof that bekesef malay means something else, because elsewhere it says bekesef malay with something else, or it says something else that implies this meaning. If over there it says bekesef malay and here it says bekesef malay, how is that a rayat over here? Base. So our basic question is, so far, what is Rashi coming to tell us? What's bothering Rashi, as they often say? And what is the raya from David HaMelech? V'hinei l'cheira yavshel levayer. Kavanas Rashi lahavi raya v'chaver. So to answer the second question of why we bring in David HaMelech, maybe Rashi is just trying to bring. There's a lashon in Rashi sometimes matzinu lechaver b'mikra, that when you have a word or a phrase that is unusual, so Rashi says, don't worry, it's not so unusual. There's another case in Chumash or in Tanakh that it brings the same phrase or the same word. So maybe Rashi is just trying to bring a friend, so to speak, another case in Tanakh where you have the same expression. And why does he need to bring a chaver? Why does he need to bring another place? The kashan le haloshen malay, because Rashi is bothered by the lashon malay. In other words, what is bothering Rashi that causes him to bring a chaver to the words kesef malay? Because Rashi is bothered by the word malay, b'shaychas lekesef, as it pertains to the word kesef, money. Full. The word malay means full. You can say something is full if it can also be the opposite of full, namely empty. Ukumay bikli, for example, a vessel, a receptacle. So it says vatamale kada. She filled her pitcher. She filled her vessel, because it was empty and she filled it. The haboyrek, another example, it says the pit that they threw Yosef in was empty. Because it was empty, it could become full. Aval bekesef masim abitui chaser shalom. By money you could say it is lacking, or it's the complete amount of money. Or yirav ma'at, or there's a lot of money versus a little bit of money, v'kadema, etc. But to say full money, I mean, we say in English full price, but to say full money, it doesn't seem to flow. And therefore Rashi says that yes, it means full money, meaning to say bekesef malei. And there's another pasuk, v'chein David amar la'Ravna bekesef malei. So from David we see that it is the way of the pasuk to sometimes use the word malei with regards to kesef. Tmuras lashon shalem hamasima yetzev, instead of using the word shalem, which would be complete money, the full amount of money, sometimes we use the lashon malei also. So this is the suggestion, and this is actually Rashi quote in the Haaretz he brings from the Be'er Mayim Chaim and others. This is what some of the Mefarshei Rashi suggest. That Rashi is bothered by the word malei, and therefore he says, 1 second, there's a pasuk in Divrei Hayamim where David says bekesef malei, so we see that it's possible to use malei for kesef. Aval if he's any moving, but that still leaves us two questions. Aleph, so then, if he's just bringing a chaver and he's not coming to give us more information, then why does he say v'chein David amar la'Ravna? And so David said to Ravna, which seems to imply that he's giving us the story versus v'chein beDavid. If he just wanted to refer to a chaver, another place in the Chumash where it says, or in the Tanakh where it says this expression, it says v'chein beDavid. Base. According to this, that Rashi is only coming to bring a chaver, to bring another example in Chumash, where in Tanakh, where the Torah says the word malei for kesef, but he's not coming to teach the word kesef malei because to translate kesef malei, because that is obvious to us what it means. Because it's understood. Then Rashi didn't have to bring the first half of Rashi to say that the words are shalim kol shavya, I will pay the full value. If the Rashi is bothered by the kesef malei, the words kesef malei, the word malei, and because of that all he's trying to do is to bring a raya, a chaver, another example where he uses the word malei on kesef, then what he should have done is gone straight to the chaver. Why does Rashi explain the words ashalim kol shavya, which is seemingly self-understood and has no purpose, because the whole purpose of Rashi is only to bring a chaver? So therefore, this suggested explanation is an insufficient explanation, because it still leaves us with two questions. A, why does Rashi say Ashalim kol shavya? And B, why does Rashi say v'chein David amar la'Ravna instead of saying v'chein beDavid, which would give us the reference to the chaver of the kesef malei by David? Gimel. Seif Gimel. We have two more questions on this Rashi. Question Gimel, because we had Aleph and Beis and Ois Aleph, so we already asked two questions. Now we have our third question. Kivan Rashi Maitikum Mefarish Atevis Bekesef Malei Havale Lemeimar Kol Shavya Umaya Isafa Ashalim Kol Shavya. Now Bekesef Malei, without following the pshat in the previous Ois, that the whole purpose of Rashi is for a chaver. So obviously Rashi is bringing more than just that. But he wants to teach the words bekesef malei. Why does he add the word ashalim? So bekesef malei means kol shavya, the full value. Why does he have to say ashalim kol shavya, I'm going to pay the full value? Dalit. Mari arichis berayose v'chein David Omer la'Ravna havale lemeimar ukmei b'kamei b'kemes v'chein b'David bekesef malei. This is similar to the question that we asked in the previous paragraph, in the previous Ois Beis on the Be'er Mayim Chaim. Why does he say v'chein David Omer la'Ravna? Should have said v'chein b'David. So to by David there's a word bekesef malei that it means the same thing over there. Why does it have to say V'chein David Amar La Ravna? It seems like he's telling us a story. What is he trying to tell us? In other words, there seems to be a greater connection between David and Avraham Avinu, that it's not just the wording of the Kesef Malay, but there's something in the story, in the context of what's going on by David and by Avraham that is more similar than it seems just by, if it would have said V'chein b'David. And now we're going to answer the questions. Well, there's one point that we're going to make in Ois Dalid, and that will lead us to the answer of all the questions. And that is that there's really two ways to translate B'kesef Malay. Does the word Malay, is it referring to the price, or is it referring to the coins, to the money? Does B'kesef Malay mean that he was paying with good coins, with quality coins, with quality money? Or does he mean to say Malay, he's talking about the value and the price, that he's going to pay the full price? And that's what Rashi is coming to tell us. B'ashkafa Rishayna, B'kesef Malay, mashma shemalay koy ala kesef. At first glance, one can say that Malay is referring to the money. Haynu shavram meidia bozeh, shemadbeis hakesef yiyu meleim mibli chisarim b'mishkalam. That Avraham is saying that the coins that he's going to use is going to be coins that are at full value. Their weight, coins weren't just like the way they are today. A coin represents a value. In the olden days, a coin was weight. There was a certain weight of gold or a certain weight of silver. So he was going to give coins that have the proper weight value. The Radha Shahaya Matbeya Kesef Molei Lo Yechsar Davar. That there was nothing missing in the weight of the coins. So it could be that that's the pshat, the Kesef Malay, that he's going to give the coins will be good quality coins, that nothing is rubbed off, nothing is chipped, nothing is missing in the weight of the coins. Or similar to the Yerushalmi, B'Kesef Malay, which Yerushalmi says Kintirin. Kintirin is large coins. Coins are Kintirin in English, they call it centenaria. It's called centenaria because the Rashi in Bechiris says that a kintarin weighs 100 sloim. So it'll be like $100 bill, but in weight. So the Yerushalmi says that Avraham offered kintarin, these coins that are worth 100 sloim, that weigh 100 sloim. As Rashi actually says on the pasuk over lasoicher that Avraham gave, or Ephraim took, large coins. It was big coins. So it could be, now Rashi doesn't say that on B'Kesef Malay. Rashi purposely does not say, as we'll see in a moment, that Rashi is not talking about the coins. But by Oiver Lasoicher, Rashi says, Shkalim Gdolim. So a person might have thought that B'Kesef Malay means that Avraham was telling the Bnei Chays that he's ready to pay big coins, or heavy coins, or full weight coins, or good quality coins. That Malay is referring on the money. And this is what Rashi wants to negate. This is what Rashi wants to argue with when he comes to say his words, Ashalem Kol Shavya. That the word Malay is not referring to the money, the quantity or the weight of the money. That Avraham is referring to the field and its full price. Avraham Omar B'Kesef Malay Hainu Ashalem Kol Shavya Shel Asada. Avraham is saying, I'm ready to pay the full price, the full value of the field. How does it fit in the word malay, full? The money will be in such a sum, it'll fulfill the entire price. Yishalem kol shavya shel hasoda, it'll complete, it'll pay the full value of the field. And that's the answer to the first question of the Sikha. What is Rashi coming to tell us? Rashi is coming to tell us that unlike what you might suggest, like the Radak says, that Bekesef Mole means that the money, the coins, will be big or full or complete, rather, Avraham is saying, I'm ready to pay full price. And where's Rashi's hechrich? What necessitates Rashi to reach this conclusion? It's understood from the Psukim. What happened in the Psukim, you may want to look in the Psukim in the actual Chumash, where Avraham comes and says, Avraham asked for a place where he could bury Sara. Come to Bnei Ches and say, we're ready to give it to you, ready to give it to you for free. And for this, Avraham answers, so, what's happening over here? It comes out that when Avraham is requesting from the Bnei Ches that they should give him, their offering should give him the Me'arat Hamachpela, and Bekesef Mole, he should give it to me, Bekesef Mole, is coming to negate that which the Bnei Ches said to him earlier, you are a prince amongst us, we'll give you the best of our burial places, nobody's going to hold back from you. They had suggested that he should take it from them without paying, he should take it for free. Avraham says, no, I'm not ready to do that. I want to pay the full price. So from the Hemshech HaKsuvim, where there's a discussion about paying, it makes sense to say that when Avraham answers Bekesef Mole Yitnen Ali, what he's trying to say is, I do want to pay the price of the field. But if you're going to say that Kesef Mole means big coins, Avram's response with regards to the size or the shape of the coins is not responding to the suggestion of Bnei Ches with regards to how they're going to give the field. Only after Avraham talks about how he's going to give it, that he doesn't want to take it for free, then it makes sense to say, let's talk about what kind of coins. But if they're saying we'll give it you for free, first Avraham has to say, no, I'm going to pay. Then he could say, I'm ready to pay big coins. But to say I'm going to pay big coins without him first responding to say, no, I want to pay, seems to not flow properly. And this is the answer of this is the reason of Rashi. Remember Kushya Gimel. The third question was, why does Rashi say Hashalim, I'm going to pay? That I'm going to pay and I don't want a free gift. By saying the word Hashalim, he's explaining how he got to this pshat. Because Avraham was just offered to get it for free, now he's responding and saying, I want to pay, I don't want it for free. It makes sense to say that Kasef Mole means I'm going to pay the full price, and not that we're talking about the coins. So that is the first half of Rashi. The first half of Rashi is Hashalim Kol Shavya, and Rashi is coming to tell us that Kesef Mole means that he's ready to pay the full price of the field. He's not talking about the coins. And the reason why Rashi, what Rashi has to say this is because that's the flow of the Psukim, that it's talking about Hashalim, that it's talking about the fact that Avraham wants to pay in response to the fact that Bnei Ches offered that he shouldn't have to pay. It's still possible to say that the Kesef Mole is talking about the money, and he's going to suggest that maybe Avraham was saying two things. That when he said that really he was saying the Kesef Mole means I'm going to pay big coins or full coins, but by saying that automatically he is also saying I want to pay. He was including two things, two messages in one phrase, in one statement. When Bnei Chaye said, we want to give it to you for free, he said, I'm going to pay bitcoins, which basically means I'm going to pay, not going to take it for free, and I want to give bitcoins. And that's what it's going to suggest a person could have understood in the pasuk. A person could catch ein. It's taken not a good, easy pshat, but a person might try to make a difficult pshat and say the money goes in the money. And even though Avraham's response is not directly to the suggestion of Bnei Chaye, because he's not clearly negating the idea of a gift, which is what the Bnei Chaye suggested. But when Avraham says that he's going to give big coins or full coins, this automatically includes his refusal to take it for free. So if your hechrich is the hemshech haksuvim, the flow of the psukim, then one can still say it's not the easiest way to put it, but fartas as mole. Mole is not really the word you use to say on kesef. So the fact that it says bekesef mole, one could say he's talking about the coins, and when he says bekesef mole, he means to negate the argument, the suggestion of Bnei Chaye about giving it for free, that he's going to pay for it and he's going to pay full price. And therefore, in order to entirely negate this approach that Kasaf Mali is referring to the money, and Avraham is saying two things in one. Meisif Rashi ve'emer v'chein David Amar la'aravna b'kasaf Mali. Rashi adds the proof from David that so too David said to Aravna b'kasaf Mali. Rashi's intention here is not to just bring another place where it says b'kesef Mali like we suggested in his bays from some of the other mefarshim. Rashi wants to strengthen his pshat in the words bekesef mole, that it is Avraham is negating the suggestion of a free gift, and he wants to say I'm paying full price. And to support this pshat, he brings a proof from what happened to Divrei Hayamim. What happened to Divrei Hayamim? Why did David want to pay also over there by David HaMelech? Aravna said to David in Divrei Hayamim, he's called Arnon, Kach lecha, there's a pasuk somewhere, I don't have it in front of me, Hakoil Nosati, that Aravna is suggesting that he wants to give everything for free. And David says, Tenoli Mekayim HaGeirin, Ve'evne Bei Mizbeach LaHashem, Bechesef Mole Tneuli. And then again, later there's the next pasuk, Ki Konei Ekne Bechesef Mole. And here's the pasuk that he brings in the Sicha, Ki Loi Esra Asher Lecha LaHashem, V'ha'lis Elis Chinam. I don't want to bring to that which is yours to Hashem, and I don't want to bring an oila which I got for free. In that pasuk, if you read the context of the pasuk, David is saying explicitly what he means by bekesef male. That bekesef male means I don't want it for free. I don't want it for free. So by saying over there, bekesef male clearly means that David is saying I don't want it for free. So therefore, this is a proof to Rashi that also over here, when it says bekesef male, it means I don't want it for free. So this answers our question base, which was, what's the raya from bekesef male if it's the same lashon? Because it's the context that he's learning from, not the words bekesef male, but the bekesef male together with the context where he says clearly, I don't want it for free. And the question Dalit was, why does it say V'chein David Amar Ravna? So that's what he says now. V'lachin herech Rashi b'lashoinoi, and therefore Rashi elaborates and says V'chein David Amar Ravna le'eres ala inyan ha'meduber sham, to tell us that Rashi is referring not just to the words B'kesef Malei, he's referring to the context of what David said to Aravna. V'hainu ha'tam shebidvarav shel David la'Aravna. The proof is not just from the words B'kesef Malei, but it's from the reasoning that David gave to Aravna, because that is Rashi's raya. That the reasoning that David gives to Aravna is, I don't want it for free. So is this a raya that B'kesef Malei means I'm going to pay full price, and so too over here, B'kesef Malei means I'm not going to pay I'm not going to take it for free. I'm going to pay full price, and it's not referring to the size or the weight of the coins. In Oizvav, he's going to take it a step deeper, and he's going to say that in the B'chein David Amar Ravna, it's not just a proof to the telling us, it's not just telling us that we should look at the context of what's happening by David HaMelech, but actually it's going to answer another question. Why take does Avraham Avinu not want to take it for free? And as the Rebbe is going to bring in the Sikha, it already belonged to him. Why is he trying to pay for something that already belongs to him? We could say additionally, by Rashi saying V'chein David la'Ravna, there's a deeper message. And this will make it more geschmack, it'll make it more understood that Rashi refers to the context of David HaMelech with the words V'chein David Amar Ravna, and didn't use other words to bring up the context of what's going on over there. Because by saying the words V'chein David Amar Ravna, it actually answers a question that can be raised. Because there's a question. My time with Avraham, what is the reason that Avraham wanted to purchase the field? And the Me'arat Hamachpela with a full price. He could have taken it without paying any money, not as a gift, which clearly he didn't want to do, but because it says that the Eibishter promised that it's Israel to Avraham Avinu, so B'meila Avraham Avinu could have taken this, as Rashi says on the pasuk, Ger b'teishav anechi imachem. Rashi says, the Medrash Agada, if you want, I'm a ger, and treat me like nicely as a stranger. If not, I am a teishav, and I could take it in adin, I could take it, it's rightfully mine, because the Eibishter said, L'zarachet in Eretz Hazayis. Rashi himself brings this. So the question is, why does Avraham want to pay for it? And this Rashi is answering, Meshiv is in quotation marks because he doesn't say it explicitly, but he is alluding to answer this by telling us that we find the same question, the same concept by David. David said to Aravna, I want to pay full price, and the same question could have been on David. Why does David want to pay full price? As we'll see in a moment, that David rightfully owned the Gate and Ayivusi. And from David, we'll be able to answer the question for over here. And here's the question that we have on David HaMelech. David HaMelech, Kavas es Yerushalayim Me'aravna HaMelech. It's very interesting that both the word David HaMelech is underlined, and Aravna HaMelech is underlined. Because in the Psukim, in Divrei Hayamim, where it speaks about Aravna, it doesn't refer to him as a Melech. But he was the Melech of Yerushalayim. And when a king captures something from another king, not, a king goes and takes something from a private citizen, or a private citizen takes something from another private citizen. When a king takes something from a king, conquers something from a king, this is a legitimate form of ownership. Because that's the way it works from king to king. That when one country conquers another country, the ownership changes to the conquering country. So when David HaMelech conquers Yerushalayim from Aravna HaMelech, so therefore David HaMelech legitimately takes ownership of the entire Yerushalayim because of the laws of kibbutz, the laws of conquering. Nevertheless, when he wants to now build a Mizbeach in Yerushalayim, he did not suffice with his ownership, with his rights, because of the conquering. Nor would he suffice the fact that Avraham would give it to him. He needed David HaMelech wanted that it should be his entirely, fully, by paying full price. And David gives the reason for this. I don't want to carry that or to bring that which is yours to Hashem. If David was to take the Geiden from Aravna only because it was his, as from the laws of conquering, it doesn't entirely negate the connection between Aravna and the silo. Even if Aravna gave it as a gift, so he's giving up this small connection that he has with it, because it still remains somewhat. It's called Asher Lecha, it was yours. And Aravna still has some hold on this Geiden. And David Melech calls it Lecha. It's also possible, doesn't say this, but it's also possible that besides the rights of ownership, there's also a metaphysical connection, if you will. In other words, if Aravna had owned it, even if David conquered the whole Yerushalayim, but Aravna still was in control of the Geiden, then he came and he said, "Give it to me," or Aravna gave it. They still say this is sponsored by Aravna. This is Aravna's Geiden. There's still some connection. By David HaMelech paying Kesef Molei, like it says by Avraham Avinu, it lifts up the entire Sada, the entire Geiden from Aravna, and Aravna loses any connection to it whatsoever. Therefore, David pays the entire value to remove any rights that Aravna may have entirely. That he should have no hold and no connection to the Mizbeach that he's building and to the Karbanos that he's bringing. The same thing can be applied to Avraham, and this is why Rashi brings and says the words V'chein David Amar LaRavda. He did not want that the Me'arat in which he is burying Sara. And Avraham himself is going to be buried there, and the rest of the Avos V'imais as well. The Tisha definitely should have any kind of connection to Shaykhs whatsoever. And even the fact that they would call it Zdei Ephraim, or they would have his name on it, and therefore Avraham refused to take it, even though it was rightfully his. Nor did he want a gift. He wanted to pay the whole price so that it should totally be removed from the possession and from the connection of any kind to Ephraim Achiti. And therefore, this answers in full the questions that we had on Rashi. Question number one, why does Rashi say the words, what is bothering Rashi? What's he trying to tell us with Bekesef Molei? And the answer, of course, is that he wants to tell us that it's referring to the value and not to the coins or the money. Question two, what's the raya from David HaMelech if it's the same words over there? And the answer is that the raya is from the context of the story of David HaMelech, that he did not want to take anything for free. Question three is, why does it say Ashalim? And the answer is because that's how Rashi is emphasizing what he's trying to say, that he's referring to the fact that he wanted to pay and not get a free field. And question four is, why does Rashi elaborate V'chein David Amar LaRavda? And the answer to that is that Rashi is trying to tell us to look at the context of the story there that he didn't want something for free, and also to explain to us why Avraham didn't want to take it even though it was rightfully his, because he wanted, like David HaMelech, that there should be no connection whatsoever between Ephraim Achiti and the Me'ara that is going to ultimately use the Avos and the Imahos. In Ois Zayin, he's going to use this explanation in Rashi to show how it affects an area in Nigle in halacha of Torah. Pirush Rashi yeshnu minyanim ufloim gam hanoigim l'shar chalkei Torah. Even though Rashi is pshuti shel mikra and is always focused on explaining the basic understanding of the pasuk, but nevertheless often there are wondrous things in Rashi that affect other parts of the Torah. And Alidei Pirusha Rashi Kan, by Rashi over here saying that Ashalim Kol Shavya, that it means he's going to pay the full price, and it doesn't mean that it's talking about the coins, means Yasheves Kushya, V'chelek ha'alacha shebetera. This answers a question in the Chelek of halacha in Torah. Hod karka nikne bekesef. The fact that you can acquire karka, real estate, real property, with money. Nilmud the Gemara is learned in the Gemara Masechta Kiddushin, Me'akosiv, Sodes Bekesef Yikno. Over there in the Mishnah, Mishnah says, Nechasim Sheyeshla Nachrayas, Niknin Bekesef Ubishtaro Bechazak. Nechasim Sheyeshla Nachrayas is basically things like real estate that are unmovable. And the Mishnah says they could be acquired with money, with a shtar, with a document, or through ownership, chazaka, making a chazaka in it. So the Gemara says, "Bekesef minala." How do I know that I could be kaina a karka with kesef? Amar Chizkiya, Amar Kra, Sodis Bekesef Yiknu. That the Chizkiya says that there's a pasuk in Yirmiyah, Sodis Bekesef Yiknu. They're going to acquire fields with money. So from here we see that a field could be acquired with money. Upirish b'teisves. Now Teisves has a question. Why doesn't he bring a raya from Ephraim, where Avraham acquired a field from Ephraim with money? I know Avraham Kones, the fact that Avraham bought a field from Ephraim with money, and for Teisves Mishum the deal mahani mili minachli shekol kinyoni bekesef. It could be that since Ephraim was a goy, and therefore the only way to acquire something from a goy is through money. So therefore, not necessarily could we learn a raya from Ephraim to a regular transaction occurring between two yidden, that it could also work bekesef. That was Teisves' answer. But according to our explanation that we learned over here, when Rashi says that bekesef male means I want to pay the entire value of the field. It's understood very simply why we can't use the purchase of Avram's purchase of the field from Ephraim as a raya to the fact that you can buy regular fields with money. First of all, the idea of a kinyan doesn't mean that I'm buying it because I paid the full price. Kinyan means that when I do something symbolic sometimes, by that action I am halachically transferring the ownership from the said item. For example, sometimes there's no money involved at all. There's something called a kinyan agav sudr, which by lifting up a handkerchief, taking ownership of the handkerchief, I am with that taking upon myself responsibilities or ownerships or a transaction of other things. So, and there's no money involved whatsoever in this kinyan. Same thing when the Mishnah says that you could be kaina a field bekesef, it doesn't mean by paying for it. It means that if I take a shava pruta and I give it to the owner, and by the transfer of money, even a minute amount of money, as long as it's a shava pruta, with that transfer of ownership, a transfer of money, the field transfers ownership as well. And over here, Avraham paid full price, so we don't know that a field could be purchased with money. That a kinyan for a field could be made with money. we know that you could, if you pay the price, it's an exchange. You give money, I give a field. That's not a chiddush. And since over here Avraham paid full price, there's no raya from over here to a regular kinyan. So I'll do it inside again. In addition to the fact that we would not have known from this limud, the main din of kinyan, that you could acquire money, acquire a field or real estate through money. That you could acquire it with a shava pruta. Even when the actual value of the karka is more. Because Avraham paid the full price, so you can't learn from here that you could acquire kesef, you could acquire a sada or a karka with just a little bit amount of money. In addition to that, we just explained that Avraham gave the money not for the purpose of acquiring it. If it was just for the purpose of acquiring it, he could have taken it because it was rightfully his, and it would have been owned by him. So why did Avraham give the money? Like we said earlier in Eis Dalid, but more in Eis Hay, but more importantly in Eis Vav. What we wanted to do is take any connection, even to a field that wasn't his anymore. Still, he wanted to remove a connection from him. This wasn't about a kinyan. This was about a more ruchniistic thing almost, to try to take away any shaychus that Ephraim had to the field. And therefore, clearly this is not about a kinyan, and therefore we couldn't learn a kinyan. So besides the fact that once you say Hashalem Kol Shavya, that he's paying the whole price, it's already not a limud for kinyan kesef bekarka. But once you know why Avraham paid the money, that he paid the money not to acquire it, but to remove the shaychus of Ephraim to the field, we know that it wasn't just about kinyan, and therefore we can't learn from there to here. So by this understanding, this limud of Rashi, and by understanding it the way the Rabbi taught it us here in the Sikha, this also affects an answer to a question that Teisves asks in the Gemara in Kiddush. Now we go to Yeina Shel Torah. After such a geschmack Rashi, there has to be a lesson that could be taken for us. Eisches. Meha inyanim the Yeina Shel Torah Pirish Rashi Shofenenu, of the things of the wine of Torah, the Chassidus, the lesson, the deeper elements in the Rashi before us. Isa b'Zoyar, the Zoyar says, "Sha'mitzvus tzrichos liyos lo berekanya ubemagna." Rekanya means empty, and magna means for free. The Zoyar over there is talking about the word v'yikhuli truma. Take it from me. So the Zoyar says, someone who wants to put in an effort in a mitzvah, he has to put in the effort as much as possible, as much as he can. Because you cannot merit to bring down the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Ruach, the Holy Eibishter, unless it's B'sachar Shalem, unless it's by paying the full price. So the Zohar says that a mitzvah cannot be B'rekanya U'B'magna, it can't be empty and free. In other words, either by rote, me just doing it without any feeling, or by getting away with doing something easy and cheap. Because if you do it in empty and free, if you do it perfunctorily, just because you have to, just because you're used to it, then it does not draw down the Ruach HaKodesh. Free is something, how it works by the forces of Hepech HaKdusha. Mitzrayim, like in Mitzrayim. There's a pasuk that says that we remember what we ate in Mitzrayim for free. So Chassidus explains that what we get from Mitzrayim we can get for free because it's coming from Klippus. But when it comes to Kedusha, it cannot be for free. A person has to invest effort as much properly, as much as he can. And to pay full price. And this is what Rashi is telling us. That Avraham says, I want to pay the full price. David said, I want to pay the full price. I don't want to give something to Hashem which I didn't pay for, which I got for free. And this is how Avraham conducted himself in generally. Avraham, the Moshe, we know, he's a paradigm of chesed. He had his tent open on all four sides. People came and went. Avraham, when he did his gemilas chesadim, he did it not just to yotze zayin, but he did it kidikayos and kifum chele. Shekima be'efin shalishtadla be'bagar shlim. That he was mekayim the inyan of gemilas chesadim in a proper way and in a full price. In the Ayah 43, he references a sikha in Chelek Chaye, where over there he talks about the fact that the Eibishter did not visit Avraham Avinu until the third day. Why? Because the Eibishter wanted, or Avraham wanted, that he should experience the pain of the bris, because he wanted to have the full experience, even though it was a difficult experience. In the Sikha over there, he brings examples where when it comes to a mitzvah, you want to be able to pay the full price, so to speak, to have the full mitzvah experience, even if it becomes difficult. One example is from the Arizal, that the Arizal would never argue about the price of a mitzvah. He wouldn't negotiate. Whatever the price was, he would pay, because he didn't want to get a deal. He knew Mistama, he was the Arizal, maybe the vendor would give him a deal. He didn't want a deal. He wanted to pay the full price. Another example is from the Gemara in Sukkah, where it says that there was a time of a famine, and Rabbi Gamliel paid 1,000 zuz for an esrik, which 1,000 zuz is a crazy price for an esrik, but nevertheless, that was the price, even though it was for a side reason, there was punct of famine, but nevertheless, Rabbi Gamliel paid the whole price for the esrik. And the other example that the Rebbe brings is from the Alter Rebbe, with the famous story that the Alter Rebbe wanted to make Kiddush Levana when he was in the boat that was crossing the moat between the prison buildings, and he was able to stop the boat, and yet he didn't do Kiddush Levana until the captain of the boat stopped the boat by himself, because he wanted that even the hachana for the mitzvah should be melubas b'darchei hateva, it should be done naturally and not rely on nisim. So here we see that Tzai by Avraham Avinu, by the milah, that he experienced all the pain of the milah, and we see the whole concept of when we do a mitzvah, it should be done properly, with a proper investment, with a proper price, and not by cutting corners, and so on and so forth. And the lesson in the Aveda of every Yid, which the Indian of a Yid is to be mevarer or mezachech, to refine and to uplift, to transform through Torah and Mitzvos, the place where he finds himself. That the Yid himself should be the balabos. That means that a person should take ownership of his chelkei ba'olam, of his part of the world. Al yedei diyuk b'tashlumei va'aveda v'ishtadlus, by specifically putting in the money and putting in the work and putting in the effort, v'lebedei kanyu b'magna, not to cut at corners or get it for free or get a deal. And he mentions in the Ayah 44 that the Tzemach Tzedek said to someone who wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael, Mach de Eretz Yisrael, which means that this ownership that Avraham Avinu was taking of Eretz Yisrael, every Yid can take ownership of Eretz Yisrael, wherever he is. He owns by doing mitzvahs, Torah mitzvahs, and doing so by paying for it, and by investing a chayis and a gishmak. And the Rebbe explains more. It's not just about the effort. A person shouldn't say to himself, since my abilities are good, I'm naturally talented, the Torah was given to me as a gift, And it's easy for me to fulfill mitzvahs. Because my nefesh abamis, Sara, don't get in the way so much. Like the Alter Rebbe brings in Tanya and Perek Tezvav, that a person can be a mitzunan b'tivi, a person can be a cold person and doesn't have such taivas. And the Alter Rebbe over there says he's called le'avadoi. He's considered someone who didn't serve Hashem fully. So the person is going to say, the whole idea of effort and toil is beyond me. I don't need to work hard. I could learn Torah easily. I could do mitzvahs easily. This is the lesson that comes from Avraham and David. They didn't want to acquire for free even that which even the portion that they were deserving of it. So little benakal, they could have come easily. They didn't want the easy way. They didn't want to just take it. They gave for the whole price. Even someone who's able to learn Torah and fulfill mitzvahs without working hard. Because then, nevertheless, in order to be mevarer his chelek in the world, to remove it entirely from under the rulership of Kalipa, and it should become a dwelling place for Hashem, is only when a person invests effort and work and toil. Like he brings in the Hara 46 from the Gemara and Megillah, which is also one of the Yud-based Psukim, you can't reach the ultimate Mitzvah without Yigiyah. So the lesson over here is that there's no free lunch. If you get away cheaply, then you'll only accomplish a little bit. If you want to transform your life, you want to transform your world, to make it a Didele Yisbarach, to Mach Da Eretz Yisrael, then you have to work hard. It has to be an Aveda, a Hishtadlus, an Aveda, and a Yegiyah. And then you could accomplish what has to be accomplished. Now you come from the world of Teres Achsidus, that when a person does this Aveda, he pays the price, then you reach the level of Arba Mei Shekel Kesef Ever L'Seicher, which Chassidus explains that the 400 coins refers to Taf Almin de Ksufin, the 400 worlds of Ksufin. Ksufin is the love, or the yearning, the desire to Hashem. The Rasi de Tzadikaya La'alma de Asi, which is referring to the dwelling places of the Tzadikim in Elam Haba. The Arba Mei Shekel Kesef is referring to the dwelling places of the Tzadikim that are filled with Kesef. Kesef comes from the Lashon Nichsef Nichsafti. I desire, I yearn for the Eibishter, and which is in the Lashon of Chassidus, his Galus Bechinas Seviv Kalalman. This Dira of the Tzadikim is a revelation of Seviv Kalalman, like it says, Soicher comes from the word Scher, around and around. Which is a reference to Seviv Kalalman. So through the person investing the full price, through that, a person could reach Arba Mei Shekel Kesef. He reaches the level of the Almin, the Kisufin, the worlds of love, which is the dwelling places of the Tzadikim of La'asid Lavei, which is the revelation of Seviv Kalalman. And is calling it Didasi Tzadikaya, the dwelling places of Tzadikim, but it's referring to the every Yid is Shaykh to receive this revelation, because the Amich Kulam Tzadikim, every Yid is a Tzadik, and therefore every Yid is worthy of this revelation. All we have to do is put in the effort, put in the price, put in the work, and then we will be Zeicha to the greatest Giluyim. May it be the Kar of Mamish.